We've been talking about it for 2 weeks on this channel, going back and forth. What a fight, man! What and more one-sided than we expected. But picked Fury coming in, was wrestling on how to pick it. Would he stop Wilder late? Would he get the stoppage? But just felt had a good feeling that Fury was just the superior boxer. I thought he proved that in the first fight. Obviously, I thought he won the first fight slightly, and he just improved on what he learned from the first fight from Wilder. Do not go backwards. Don't waste too much on the lateral movement. And we made, and I dropped the video earlier today on the weight, right? So much was made about Fury coming in at 273 when really the story I felt was, if you go back and watch the video I dropped about 6-7 hours ago, really the story was Wilder coming in at 231 and bulking up and just really being a little out of character. But what happened was Fury's just walking him down. And what we've known about Wilder for a while is humongous puncher, obviously, humongous puncher, one of the greatest punchers that we've seen in the sport. His right hand is the biggest weapon in boxing. However, he forgets about the jab. He forgets that he can be a decent boxer. He forgot about the jab again in this fight, was completely out jabbed in that first round. Second round started using it again and then got caught with that shot, which people are going to complain about the shot being behind the head. But if you remember, it's the same exact shot that Wilder caught Fury with in that first fight, right? It was right behind the ear. He caught him, and that's the worst shots, man. When you kind of lean over, and that's the mistake Fury made twice in that first fight, is he leaned over to duck from the punches and got caught right behind the ear, and Wilder made the same mistake. And Fury was just, he was just destructive tonight, man. He fought a beautiful fight. People were rolling their eyes as the lead up to this fight, him and Sugar Hill talking about, oh, we're going to gain weight, we're going to gain muscle, we're going to walk him down, and we're going to knock him out. And it ended up being the perfect strategy. It ended up being reminiscent of Ward versus Kovalev too, right? The first fight, Ward saw he made some mistakes, used some unneeded movement, and instead just walked Kovalev down and went to the body and just destroyed him at his own game. And it's all sort of eerily similar how much Fury and Ward's careers sort of mirror each other, right? Because you have sort of when Ward had earlier on in his career, he was doing great things, and then due to promotional issues, his career was sort of derailed for 3 or 4 years until he got back on track and ended up finishing his career off with that great Kovalev win. Had 2 fights with Kovalev, and then Fury the same thing. He had that huge win against Klitschko. Goes off the rails for a couple of years there, comes back and then beats Wilder, the most dangerous man in the sport, I thought twice, but finishes it off with this fight tonight. And he said he probably has 3 more fights left in his career when he finishes up this contract. So I think Fury versus Joshua overseas is going to be humongous for those 2 heavyweights to come into and fight each other overseas. I think it's eventually going to happen in 2021. I think they're going to milk that for a little while, and it's going to happen in 2021. But let me say this before I go any further. Props to Wilder, man, because he showed great heart, because he was a zombie. Yeah, you're right on that. Wilder got a Mexican heart, though. He had that heart tonight, man. That guy was a zombie since round 2. And I said it round 2. I was like, he's out on his feet. He's done. And he got caught with a couple shots, and the announcers didn't notice it. Andre Ward, Lennox Lewis, they didn't notice it. Before he got caught with that knockdown shot, his legs just were not there. They were just not there. And from round 2 on, he was just a zombie. And I agree with Andre Ward. They weren't really treating what was wrong with him in the corner. He was just out of it, man. And I actually thought if Fury was a better offensive fighter, a more offensive-minded fighter, because Fury is a guy who likes to mix it up, right? More defensive-minded, mixes in with the offense, more well-rounded fighter. But I felt like if he was more of a stopper, he would have got that fight over with earlier because he was sort of smothering his work a little bit. He could have stopped Wilder, and I thought got a more definitive knockout earlier in the fight, 3, 4, 5, round 5. But he was sort of smothering his work. He'd throw a couple punches and lean on him. And that was tactical, right? He wanted to use that weight, and that was part of the weight gain too, right? Is he wanted to use that weight, lean on Wilder, lean on him, walk him down. It was tactical from the very beginning. 273 was all part of the plan. Let's walk him down. Let's lean on him. Let's catch him with some shots in the clinch. And by the way, Kenny Bayless was awful tonight. Awful tonight. My God, Kenny Bayless was awful. And that point deduction of Fury was awful. I mean, if you have a problem with guys punching in the clinch, then guess what? Get in the middle of them. Break it up. But he's yelling at him on the side, and then Fury throws a right uppercut coming out of the clinch, which is legal if you're not going to step in, and then he takes a point, which was an early point deduction, but that gave Wilder some added time to sort of regather himself, regather his legs a little bit, which he never really regathered. This was just a complete destruction. You can just see, you saw in the first fight that Fury was a superior fighter, right? But the narrative coming into this fight was, can Fury go 24 rounds with Wilder, right? Can he stay away from that right hand for 24 rounds and stay up in this fight? And he had no issues with that tonight. Wilder just never. There was like one straight right that Wilder caught Fury with in that first round. But Fury shook it off well, right? I mean, just shook it off, and he was fine. Wilder was just never able to find that range, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we always talk about it. He forgets that he has a great jab, and he has a great jab when he uses it. He just forgets about it. He falls in love with that right hand, which is understandable, but you got to set it up. All credit to Fury. Wilder would have died if they didn't stop it. Look, G-Funk, shout out G-Funk Boxing. Look, all credit to Fury. You're right, but I thought it was a great stoppage. At first, I was like, I didn't know the corner threw the towel in. I didn't know that they were waving it off. So I didn't want it to be one of those things where they said, oh, early stoppage, anticlimactic. But it was good to see Mark Braylon and Diaz to come in and stop that at the right time, because it was the right time to stop it, right? Wilder's going to be mad at his team for a while, but he's going to see eventually, I believe, because he's been with those guys for a while, that was the right thing to do. There was just he didn't have his legs to set up. He just didn't seem dangerous tonight at all. At all. Fury took that away from him right away by walking him down and beating him in his own game. It was a good stoppage. They needed to save. Yeah, you're right. You're right. They needed to stop. That's the job of the corner. Stop. Save your fighter from himself. And especially Wilder, because I said this on the channel several times, is when people ask me who's the best heavyweight, I've always said, for the past 4 or 5 years, I've said Fury. When Fury's on his game, he's the best heavyweight in the world. However, when you ask me who's going to be the best heavyweight in the world 3 to 4 years down the line from now, 2023, I'd say Deontay Wilder could very well be, because Fury just doesn't seem to be as interested in long-term boxing, right? He doesn't seem to be as interested. He said it himself this week. He said, I have 3 fights left on my contract. I'm thinking about stepping away from it. Whereas Wilder, this is him. This is him. He's been boxing since he was 19, although that's a late start. But he seems more interested in being the heavyweight king for a long term, in the legacy of it, than as far as Tyson Fury long term down the line. So the reason I bring that up is the stoppage came at the right time, because you want to save this guy for future fights, because the future fights are still going to be out there. You got Ruiz out there, which Wilder actually matches up very well with Ruiz. You got Anthony Joshua out there. And Wilder matches up better with Joshua than he does Fury. Right? Joshua's more mechanical than Fury is. Fury's more of a free fighter. He can just bring numerous things to you. He can use lateral movement. He can use defense, and he can use what he used tonight, the jab, work behind the jab. And we talked about this on the channel as well. Wilder is an underrated boxer, but Fury is an underrated puncher. And it was interesting to see who would sort of use those things tonight. And tonight, Wilder did not use any boxing ability, did not use the jab, did not try to set up his right hand with the jab at all. Fury used the punching ability because he can punch when it's there. And he set it up with the jab. He set it up with the jab beautifully tonight. And he brought that jab immediately. And you saw as soon as the bell rang, Fury runs to center circle, man. He ran right to the middle of the ring and said, "This is my ring tonight. This is my ring tonight." And Wilder just never had it. I didn't give a single round to Wilder. I thought the second round was close. The second round was the closest round, but I didn't give a single round to Wilder tonight. I mean, this was complete destruction, completely outcast. Wilder might be done after this. I know a local fighter that got his eardrum broken. Yeah, and look, that was bleeding. That was bleeding. And Ward was pointing it out that was bleeding. And they were saying that it was a brutal KO. Yeah, it was. Look, and they were saying that Fury was licking the blood. Fury wasn't licking the blood, man. That would be disgusting. He was actually using his tongue to somebody and joking around, because that would have been disgusting if he was licking Wilder's blood. But he was bleeding from the eardrum, and he was just out of it. You saw his eyes, and he was just kind of wobbling since that second round before the knockdown. But after the knockdown, and I don't know what y'all thought about this, but there was a second time that Wilder went down in that same round where he was knocked down. I actually thought that could have been a knockdown. And I don't know what y'all thought about, because they never showed the replay. I actually thought that could have been ruled a knockdown, because there was a couple punches that were thrown before he fell. And then I think I forgot what round. Do you believe Bayless favored Wilder at all? I heard he took a point away. Yeah, he did take a point away that was not needed. As I talked about a couple minutes ago, Bayless was awful tonight. He was awful. And Bayless is hit and miss with me, man. Sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's just awful. The first time was definitely a knockdown. I don't know about the second time. I wish somebody would show a replay of that second knockdown. I really wish somebody would show that, because I'm interested to see if that was the second knockdown. But then the knockdown that came later in the fight was actually from a body shot, but that was legs, man. His legs were gone. He didn't fall from the body shot. He fell from an earlier shot that was upstairs, but he just fell. He had nothing left in him. So for him to be still up in the seventh round showed, first of all, that Fury is an underrated puncher, but he's not a huge puncher, right? He's not a huge puncher. He's not much of a finisher. Here in the UK, I didn't pay for the fight. Fury done a good job. Punching power is not enough. Yeah, you're right. Once you get up to that upper echelon of fighter, you got to show something other than punching power, which he showed in the first fight. First fight, he had his moments as far as boxing ability. And then he set those big punches up, right? And it was a mixture of that and Fury using a lot of unneeded movement in the first fight that you saw he didn't use in that second fight. And we talked about this leading up to the fight. Fury was off of losing a lot of weight, and he was probably 75, 80%. So was not himself in the first fight as compared to this fight. I mean, he just looked in tip-top shape. Once the 273 and him not taking his shirt off at the weigh-in, people were confused. People were like, oh, is this... is he fat? Is he out of shape? I heard people were DMing me on Instagram and all this stuff that Fury, I heard rumors Fury's out of shape. Fury's out of shape. I heard rumors he's out of shape, but he wasn't. You saw when he took the shirt off tonight to fight, it was definitely muscle he gained. He wasn't muscular, but that was not fat that he gained. He looked in shape tonight. And the 273, the adding almost 20 pounds was definitely tactical, and he used it well tonight. And props to Sugar Hill for concocting this plan for Fury, and for Fury to go along with it, and for Fury to concoct this plan as well, and for them to execute it with the weight. And you saw that was the plan from right away. He runs to center circle. He said, "This is my ring tonight," walks him down, because what do we know about Wilder? Doesn't punch as well going backwards, obviously. So that, and he's not a counterpuncher. When you're throwing punches at Wilder, it's nothing's really coming back. He can dodge them, but there's nothing really coming back. When Wilder is on his game, he's loading up on that right hand coming forward or at distance, at his distance. And you saw that Fury's plan was, I'm going to smother him tonight. Even when, yeah, also adding pounds for Wilder was a factor. And I didn't understand, I dropped the video earlier. I didn't understand the added weight for Wilder. I just didn't. Wilder is a big puncher at 214. So why come in at 231? And I know he's been in at 234 before, but not against the caliber of fighter of this. And I wonder how much the added weight had to do with it. Ultimately, I'd say not much because he got caught so early that you don't really know what the added weight had to do with it. But I didn't really understand why he's coming in so much. To him with head movement. The weight gain was stupid. He was to step him. Yeah, I don't know. But Fury was leaning on him a lot, with that added weight. And I thought that weight that Fury was using on him, the 40 pounds of weight advantage, I think it had a factor on how Wilder was reacting to Fury's punches. Fury's probably had more on his punch. Not probably, he did have more on his punches tonight. Not only with the 17 pounds of added weight, but him sitting on his punches tonight. He wasn't beating a prime Fury. Anyways, Fury won the first fight. Plans step up to the bully and bully him. That was the plan tonight. Much like I said, Fury walking down Kovalev in that second fight and taking it to him. And that's what to me what adds Fury to this legacy of great heavyweights tonight is he does it in emphatic fashion. But not only that, this is the second time I've seen him beat someone who's considered a great heavyweight at his own game. He did it to Klitschko. I watched the first fight with the U.S. commentary. I actually thought it was a lot closer going either way. I had, just to answer you there, I had Fury winning by, I believe, 1 or 2 points in the first fight. I thought Fury won the fight, but it was close. It was close. Could have went either way. But I just, for him to beat Klitschko at his own game, I thought he won like 9 or 10 rounds against Klitschko, just outboxed him, boxed Klitschko's ears off. And then for him to beat Wilder at his own game, I don't think there's going to be a rematch, to answer you there. I don't think there's going to be another fight. For Fury to do it emphatically, I don't think the demand for a third fight is going to be there. I just don't. I thought Fury clearly, this isn't like a Canelo versus Kovalev. I mean, Canelo versus Triple G situation, right? Where you could say, I thought Triple G won the first fight with Canelo. I thought he won the fight close. I thought Canelo won the second fight close. So I thought through 24 rounds, those guys were pretty much even as far as rounds go. And they were very much each other's equal. Although the narrative says that Canelo got the best of them, I thought they were pretty much equal. So there's demand for that third fight, right? I just don't see a demand for the third fight here. You could argue that Fury won the first fight close. And then I thought Fury just destroyed him tonight in every way. In every way. I mean, there was nothing that Wilder was better at tonight. Nothing. Not in punching power. And that's the baffling thing about it is Fury was the bigger puncher tonight. Right? The story isn't the boxing ability. The story is he stepped to the bully, as you said, and out-bullied him and beat him at his own game. And that's where I want to finish up my point with that is it just adds to his legacy as a great heavyweight. The fact that he beat Klitschko at his own game, outboxed him, and then just knocks out or stops the ultimate knockout fighter of our era. 41 knockouts in 42 fights, and the only guy he didn't knock out, he knocked out in the second fight. And that was the other narrative coming in that sort of had me going back and forth is, and thanks for all the comments, Leon, shout out to you and everybody else comment. Please send in your comments. I don't think Wilder would want a rematch. It seemed like when those right hands, something happened. Wilder would want a rematch, though. That's what I would say about Wilder is he showed the heart tonight. As somebody said, he showed the heart of a Mexican fighter. He showed heart. He would want a third fight. He would. I just don't think there's going to be a demand for it from the fans. We know that Fury's just a better fighter. clearly the better fighter than Wilder. He just is. And if there's a third fight, it doesn't go any different. While Fury just has layers, man. He just has layers, and that Wilder does not have. And you saw it tonight when Fury caught him with those shots, and his legs were gone. It's like when you cut Samson's hair off. It's just done. It just wasn't there. He was just a zombie waiting to be stopped. And luckily, the corner stepped in. There is a rematch clause according to Lion Leon, and Wilder would execute that rematch clause. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't believe in Mexican style, but yes, Wilder shows heart. I don't believe in the Mexican style either and all that. But people say it's just a term, an adage, Mexican heart, and he has that heart, man. He showed it tonight. Props to him. I don't think we should just throw him out, man. There's still a lane for Wilder. There's still a lane for him out there. He's not the heavyweight king. And I thought it would have been great for boxing, American boxing, if he would have been this heavyweight king and the guy you could look at as the trash talker, and he could actually back it up and go out there and knock guys out and look the part and all that stuff. But it just wasn't meant to be. Fury beat him in his own game, and that's the beauty of Fury winning by stoppage instead of a decision, right? Is there was no doubt. And that's what heavyweight boxing is, man, what it should be. Leave no doubt. I remember your videos about Pacquiao not being robbery. I thoroughly agree. And all, Carol, people are so influenced by commentary these days, so I appreciate your realism. I try to keep it as real as possible, even if I like a certain fighter. Everybody knows. Shout out to G-Funk. They make fun of me for the Cotto love and all that stuff. But Cotto, Arturo Gatti, some of my favorite fighters. But I call it how it is, man. When guys get outclassed that I like, it is what it is. And being from the South in America, while they're saying his legs were right before coming to the fight, yeah, that's the thing that I don't like about these post-fight interviews. Before I go any further, is guys say I don't have any excuses, but then they throw out like 5 excuses. It's like I had a lot of stuff before the fight. He's talking about this is the greatest camp ever, and I came in for 231 for a reason, and we feel great. Frotch love, yeah, haplotype. Shout out to haplotype. Look, and that's the thing too, is the Frotch love, man. Shout out to Carl Frotch, one of my favorite fighters of all time. But look, Andre Ward was the better fighter. He just was. Out of Ward and Frotch, he beat him. And I think Ward would have beat him 10 out of 10 times, as much as I love Carl Frotch. It just is what it is. I keep it real, unlike a lot of people do on here, but there are certain channels that don't. But look, just to wrap it up on Fury and Wilder, there's still a lane for Wilder out there, is what I'm getting at. Yeah, Ward beat Frotch at his own game too. That's exactly right. But there's still a lane out there for Wilder. It just is. There are fights for him out there. I think the Ruiz fight is something they need to jump on as soon as possible, because stylistically that works for him. But you give him a tune-up. You give him a comeback fight, right? Let him get his feet back. I don't know what's going to happen with the eardrum and whatnot. Maybe he'll never be the same. We don't know. Time will tell. But down the line, 2021, try to get him in there with Ruiz, get him another big win. Who should Fury fight next? Do you believe when he says he'll fight 2 more times or 3? And yeah, I do absolutely believe Fury when he says he's got 3 more fights left in his contract. He's going to finish that out and walk away. I do believe it when he says it. I do believe it. There's still doubt there, obviously, because fighters say that all the time and then come back. But there seems to be a growing trend of fighters that retire and then don't unretire. 2 guys calling the fights tonight, Andre Ward, Timothy Bradley. They retired. I don't think they'll ever come out of retirement. And Fury, when he says 3 fights left, I believe him. And I think he'll have 2 more fights that are sort of average opposition. And then I fully expect him to finish out his career in the 3rd fight, 2021, with Anthony Joshua. I fully expect. Ton was exposed, but he was. I mean, he already technically beat Fury. I didn't catch the end of that comment. But I got it on my iPhone, so I can't see the whole chat. Sorry about that. Yeah, look, I fully expect them to for the Joshua fight to be the crescendo, the climax, and then he walks away. Um, and maybe the third fight is Joshua, and there's a demand for a rematch, and he comes back. But I think Joshua is it. I think Joshua. I think the plan this whole time was to beat Wilder, and then go for Joshua, and for that to be the end all be all, because that fight overseas is going to be humongous, and it's going to be big here in America too. There's going to be demand for it. Fury's a name here now. He's a name here now. I fully expect for the buys, this pay-per-view buys, to be over 1 million. And I said a couple last week, I thought it was going to be 500 to 750, but I usually gauge it by how many of my friends who are non-boxing. I think Wilder needs a new trainer. It's a shame that he never. I don't think Wilder needs a new trainer. More on that in a second. But I thought it was going to be between 500 and 750, the buys. But I gauge it mostly on pay-per-view buys by how many of my non-boxing friends are texting me, calling me, should I get this fight? I think I should get this fight. And the promotion was off the charts for this. Great job promoting this fight. I fully expect this to go over 1 million from what I've seen this past week as far as non-boxing fans hit me up about this fight. I think it's going to be over 1 million, 1 to 1.5, maybe even north of 1.5. Who knows? But the pay-per-view buys for this fight are going to be well in America. And it broke the live gate in Nevada for a heavyweight fight as well. So great things for heavyweight boxing. Just a beautiful thing. But as far as new trainer, I think Wilder needs to stick with who he is, especially after tonight. Because, look, I fully think that his corner has probably been beating it into his head to jab, jab, jab. Certain fighters just don't listen to it, man. They just fall in love with their main tool. And that's Wilder. He falls in love with the main tool, which is the right hand, and forgets about the jab, forgets to box, forgets to throw the jab to the chest and to the body, and throw the jab upstairs and set up that right hand and find his range. And he sort of did that beginning of the second round, but then completely abandoned it again. And his corner showed tonight that they did the right thing by stopping the fight. And Wilder's mad right now, but I fully expect when he wakes up or a week from now, he's going to say, you know what, that was the right thing to do. I was a zombie in there. He's going to watch the fight and say, I just wasn't there. This wasn't my night. It didn't matter. And, you know, I said it leading up. Round 1 or round 12, Wilder is equally dangerous. He showed that in the first fight, but tonight that was not the case. That was not the case at all. He was just out on his feet, out on his feet. And I don't want to hear any complaints about the shot behind the head, because like I said, it was actually behind the ear, and that's the same shot that Fury got caught with in the first fight. It's just when you go down like that, the guy catches you. He's actually throwing the punch, aiming here, and then you move your head and it catches you there. That's fair game to me. Fair game. And it's not like those were rabbit punches, right? You just caught him behind the ear. That's boxing, man. He got caught. It's boxing. And it was a fair shot. And like I said, before that, Wilder's legs were sort of shaky. He was just not reacting well to that jab. You saw it in the first round. And this was from the very beginning, from jump. When Fury ran out, you know, I was sort of wobbly today in sort of thinking, did I make the right prediction by picking Fury? Because so much, dude, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but everybody on the broadcast was picking Wilder. I mean, it seemed like, I thought this coming in was a toss-up fight, but it seemed like as the fight got closer, everybody was picking Wilder all of a sudden. And you looked at the Vegas odds, it was a toss-up a couple days ago, and then all of a sudden, Wilder goes to plus or minus 130, and then Fury's down here at plus, I think it was plus 135 by the time the fight starts. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? Am I missing something? Should I pull back from my Fury prediction? What am I doing here? And I was worried about him wearing a t-shirt at the weigh-in. Maybe he's flabby. Maybe the 273 is not good. People had me rethinking everything. But then when he took the shirt off, he looked fine. And then he runs to the center ring, and I'm like, okay, he is going to try to knock him out. And he marked his territory right there and just walked him down. And Sugar Hill was right, man. Push this guy back. When he throws punches, go with the high guard, block the punches, lean on him when you have to with the 40 pounds of extra weight, and just wear this guy down and beat him at his own game. And that's what he did. And just a beautiful, 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 beautiful performance by Fury tonight. And this takes his career, his legacy to a new level. It just does. He showed things tonight that a lot of people did not think he had. And I know that because from talking to people. And he showed things that I didn't know he had. I was doubting whether he should come in here for the knockout as well. I was doubting it because, I mean, what if you walk into a right hand? You know, what if this thing goes into later rounds and you have all this extra weight, you have all this extra muscle? What happens then? But it was nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. So just a great, great classic heavyweight performance by Fury tonight. And the difference tonight, I thought, was the jab. The jab. The jab, man. Young fighters out there, do not forget about the jab. It sets up everything. It set up the plate. And Fury just completely outclassed him with the jab. Completely outclassed from the jump. From the jump. Marked his territory. Created his distance. Smothered when he has to. I thought he over smothered at times. Because like I said, if he didn't over smother his work, I think he would have got Wilder out of there round 3, round 4, round 5, somewhere around there. But I think that's him playing it safe as well. Maybe not trying to throw himself out as well, right? Because when he's leaning like that, all the energy is going towards Deontay Wilder. He's the one expending the energy at that time, and Fury's just resting. Fury's just resting on top of him. Wilder's the one expending all the energy, and probably a smart plan to stay away from the right hand as well. Smother Wilder and not let him ever come forward with that right hand. Because like I said, man, Wilder, although an underrated boxer, not a great boxer by any means, and not a guy who you have to worry about countering you. He's just not a great counter puncher, not a great guy, great fighter going backwards, but he is great with that right hand when he's moving forward. And Fury completely took it away from Wilder tonight. Just a great performance. I can't say enough about Fury's performance, man. Just great. Usually I have buyer's remorse with these pay-per-views, but not tonight. I felt very satisfied that we got although not a great fight, although not a two-sided fight, it was a one-sided fight, but a great performance. You know, I love when we get those. We saw a master boxer in there doing his work tonight. It's just not... Fury is so athletic, man. So damn athletic. Guys that size are not supposed to move like that, man. You're not supposed to be 6'9", 273 and move the way he does. Have the upper body movement, have the lateral movement, be light on your feet. It's like I talk about LeBron James, like 6'8", 240, you're not supposed to be flying through the air like that. You're not supposed to be playing 82 games a year with that weight, not getting injured. It's like aliens. These guys are aliens. And I hope people appreciate that and stop the bickering back and forth and just appreciate the greatness that's there. You know, I know boxing is a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of, I don't like this guy because he's this color or he's this, he's that, he's from that country. But you got to appreciate greatness when it's there, man. Appreciate the guys like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant when he was here, Michael Jordan when he was here, Tom Brady when he's here, Drew Brees, and you appreciate the Tyson Furies, you appreciate the Lomachenkos, and you appreciate the Terrence Crawfords while they're here. All right, but what I will say about Deontay Wilder is we talked about his heart, but it also goes with he consistently wants to be great, and he fell short of that tonight. And this is one of the reasons I loved Arturo Gatti is Arturo Gatti could have just been this guy who fought average fighters, Mickey Ward level fighters, and got away with that by being an entertaining fighter. But he stepped up. He fought the Oscar De La Hoyas. He fought the Floyd Mayweathers. And he got outclassed in those fights. But he wanted to be in those fights. He wanted to prove that he was the best. And Deontay Wilder is cut from that cloth, man. You saw it tonight. Was out on his feet for 5-6 rounds, continued to go. Was actually mad with his team stopping the fight. But he consistently wants to fight the best fighters. And that's what I got from the post-fight interview too, is he says, I'm going to be back. There's no doubt in my mind that the Anthony Joshuas are not going to be afraid to fight him now. That's one good thing that's going to come from this for Deontay Wilder is those guys are going to be more ready to step in the ring with him now. Now that there's a blueprint to pick them apart, I just don't think those guys are as built for it as Tyson Fury is. But the Anthony Joshua fight's going to be there for him in 2021. The Ruiz fight's going to be there for him in 2021. Once he rebuilds himself, I think he should take 1 or 2 light touches and then get back to it in 2021 if that eardrum isn't so messed up that it messes up his career. But who knows if he's going to be the same fighter, but there is a lane for him to be in these exciting fighters. People will still watch because he still is a knockout artist. He still will get knockouts if he's somewhat close to the fighter he was. And, you shouldn't completely abandon this guy as a really good heavyweight because he's going to be there. He's going to be there. The fights are going to be there. And I appreciate there should be more Deontay Wilders out there because if you look at the PBC, he's one of the few fighters out of Al Heyman's camp who are calling out all the best fighters, even though they aren't under his tent. Look at the PBC and the welterweights. The only guy out there who's calling out non-PBC fighters is Sean Porter. Yeah, Usyk, you bring up a good point, Lion Leon. That's going to be the interesting. He's going to be the wild card in this heavyweight division. Great cruiserweight, great tactician, great boxer. But what's he going to do stepping up to heavyweight? He's a wild card in this, man, because if he steps up and makes some noise at heavyweight, gets 2 or 3 decent wins at heavyweight, and then steps up, what's he going to do at the heavyweight division? He's going to be a guy to throw in the mix. I don't know, even before this fight, I've always think AJ will beat Wilder. That's very much... I'd say that more people than not right now after this fight would say that AJ is going to beat Wilder. I'd say that's probably the case, especially now. I thought coming into this fight that Fury was 1, Wilder was 2. Anthony Joshua was a distant 3rd. But there's going to be a lot of people rethinking that after this fight. But that's what you get when you step up, man. Like this, that's the thing. Like, we should be praising guys like Wilder and not breaking him down. Not beating him down because he did step up for these fights. He did step up and fight Fury twice. What's Anthony Joshua doing? He's at home. He's not fighting Fury. He's not fighting Wilder, right? He's pricing himself out of this fight or making excuses. So, look, Thin Chin is not there for AJ. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that. But back to my PBC welterweights, they're not calling out Terrence Crawford. They're not fighting Terrence Crawford. So I don't want to hear the excuses that these PBC welterweights are throwing out. You saw with PBC and you saw the cross promotion tonight, and it worked. It worked. It was a beautiful thing. Live Gate crushed the record, and then the pay-per-view buys are going to be over 1 million. There's no doubt in my mind. Over 1 million buys. So this is what happens when you cross-promote and work together and the best fight the best. It's a beautiful thing for boxing. So I look at these PBC welterweights, and I'm saying to them, look at what Deontay Wilder is doing. He's in a big fight. That's what real fighters do. And we should be praising the Deontay Wilders instead of praising the guys like, I'm not going to throw out names because people get mad, but these PBC welterweights that aren't named Sean Porter, that are ducking the big fight with Terrence Crawford, they're looking at tonight like this is what happens when you step up. So I'm going to go get my easy money against average fighters. When they should be saying, let's give the fans what they want. And that's what Deontay Wilder did. And that's why we should be praising Deontay Wilder. And it's fair criticism that we're giving him now after tonight. But at the same time, you got to keep in mind that this guy did step up to the top level, and he does deserve that credit. So props to him, man. I got mad love. I have mad respect for anybody who steps in that ring, but especially at that level, man. These guys are aliens. But when you start talking about the levels of it, Fury is just an alien, man. I just keep going back to it. You're not supposed to move like that at that size. You're just not. It's like Dirk Nowitzki, 7'1", shooting fadeaways. It's like, how? How is he doing that? All right, and I think that's a good comparison. Like, you look at Dirk Nowitzki, and like, that guy's, there's no way that guy's athletic. But he is. In Fury, you look at him, he's like, that guy's not athletic. There's no way that guy's athletic. But then he is. Light on his feet, using the upper body movement, talking trash, using the jab, fast hands. I was looking at some footage earlier of him before the fight of him training with Emmanuel Stewart, rest in peace. And it was just, it was a young Tyson Fury. And it was so fun watching this guy work the mitts with answers in the post fight. You think he'll be back? I didn't like. I'll answer that in a second. But back to this, watching him work the mitts, a young Tyson Fury with Emmanuel Stewart is just like, this is a young phenom. Like, this is a 6'9" guy, just fast hands, and working with Emmanuel Stewart, an all-time great. And Manny's just, you see Manny's in his glory. And I'm glad that this was a Manny Stewart type of fight. Remember Manny Stewart and Sugar Hill? Let me touch on this for a minute. Sugar Hill talked about this in an interview he did with Ring TV yesterday. He was saying, I remember Manny Stewart being in the corner with him for Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, and him yelling at Lennox Lewis to step it up and get this guy out of here. And he didn't. And the fight ended up being a draw. And he said, that's what I saw in the first Fury versus Wilder fight, is Fury just didn't step it up, wasn't offensive minded enough. And that's what we're going to do in this fight. And I think people like myself, when I first heard, I'm like rolling my eyes, like, him going for a knockout against Wilder? Bold move. Bold move. I don't know about that, but it ended up being the right move. And this was Emmanuel Stewart type of fight. I wish Emmanuel Stewart was alive to see this tonight. And I thought about that when I saw Sugar Hill with all the crunk stuff, smiling after the fight. Is this was an Emmanuel Stewart type of fight where Fury could have hurt him early and then sort of got on his bicycle and played it safe, but he went for the stoppage. He just fought that type of fight, offensive minded, and it was just a beautiful thing. By the way, man, hit me with the comments, hit that sub button, hit the like button. I appreciate y'all. Daily boxing videos here. Podcast starts Monday. Very active on here now with the new schedule. So make sure to hit that sub button and hit that alarm, the alerts. That way y'all get the email when I do go live videos every day. But back to your comment, I didn't like some of the stuff I heard from Wilder, and I like some of the stuff I heard from Wilder after the fight. Like I said, he's a warrior, so he was going to call out his corner. That's just, he's prideful. He did want to go out on his shield. That's just the fighter in him. So I didn't see any fault in that. I just don't like when, the one thing I didn't like is when fighters say, oh, there's no excuses, but then they throw out excuses. My neck, my back, all this stuff. He was talking greasy this whole camp, this whole lead up to this fight. So for him to say there was a lot of things going on leading up to this fight that people don't know about, look, that's excuses. It is what it is. And I respect Wilder to the utmost, but I just don't like when fighters do that. I'd much rather fighters just give props to the other fighter and call it a day. Just get the mic out your face and move on, because I just can't see that. And even in the pre-fight with the girl, I forgot her name, he was saying that he felt great coming in at 231. He built himself up. He doesn't even worry about weight, and he was just, that's just added muscle from the hard training he's doing. And his strength and conditioning coach was talking mad reckless leading up to this fight. This whole week, his strength and conditioning coach was talking about how great of a job they did, all this stuff. So where these excuses are coming from, I don't know. Because leading up to the fight, there was nothing wrong. He felt great. So, but let me leave it off with this. And I appreciate all the comments, appreciate the likes, hit that sub button. But Wilder, let's not give up on him. Let's give him his props. Still a lane for him if everything's right with him. God willing, the eardrum heals well. Hopefully the jaw's not too bad. I'm pretty sure he's got a broken jaw too. Do you think this was too quick of a turnaround for Wilder? No, I don't. I thought Wilder was fine. I thought, no excuses, man. I thought Wilder was fine coming into this fight. Just like I thought Fury was fine coming into this fight. I was not worried about the Otto Wallin fight at all. I didn't even bring it up. He looked bad in the Otto Wallen fight. Bad, but I attributed that to Fury's the type of guy, man. You've seen it throughout his career, the past decade, particularly the past 5 or 6 years. Is when he's not interested in something, he's not going to show up. He's going to come in a little out of shape. You saw it after the Klitschko fight. When he beat Klitschko, it was like, I got to the top of the mountain. I'm not interested in anything else anymore. And the mental health stuff got in the way, and he just completely went off the rails, ballooned to 400 plus pounds. When he's not interested in something, man. And that's why I said I completely believe him when he says three fights and I'm done. Because when he's not interested anymore, he completely tunes out. And that's what I attributed the Wallen fight to, is he just was not there mentally. He had to, when he had to step it into fifth gear and win that fight, he did. That was a bad cut, but they reconstructed that cut well, and he had enough time to heal, and he was fine. And Wilder was fine coming in. Both guys came in at the best shape of their careers. This was their biggest fight. They both knew it. They both knew the big lights were there. Everything was set up for them. They both had great camps. They said so themselves, and there's no excuses. The best man won tonight. And Fury was clearly the best man, and Fury is clearly the better fighter out of the two. And Fury is clearly the best heavyweight in the world. He is the king. Not only the Gypsy King, he is the heavyweight king, and he is the king of boxing now. He just is. And hopefully he keeps his head about him, stays consistent, fights one more time. I think we'll see him one more time in 2020, hopefully, later in the year. Maybe not, but hopefully so. Hopefully he stays somewhat active, because the issue with Fury is if he's not active, if he goes 6 or 7 months, 8 months, 9 months without training, he balloons and he goes off the rails. You know, he's the type of guy you have to keep in the gym. Have to keep Fury in the gym for these next 3 fights. So I'd fight him one more time in 2020. I'd almost fight him 2 more times just to keep him active against average opposition, and then fight him in 2021. But I tend to think we'll see him one more time. He'll take a break in 2020. He'll fight maybe early winter 2020, late fall, and then we'll see him twice in 2021. Yeah, to quote Hailstorm Sports, he beat him like a racist cop. Shout out to my boy Hailstorm Sports, who, by the way, I was DMing and text messaging back and forth during the fight. He actually didn't watch it, but I was giving him updates of the fight. But he doesn't think much of Wilder, to be honest. Hailstorm Sports doesn't think he's that good of a boxer. But yeah, beat him like a racist cop. That's a good quote. But yeah, Fury, keep him active. Keep him active. Keep that rust off of him. Keep him out of bars and all that stuff. And hopefully he keeps his head straight and finishes off his career strong, because I would love to see him go out as the undefeated champ. But he is the heavyweight king and the king of boxing now. There's just no doubt about it. There's no doubt who the better fighter was in this fight. This was no fluke. This was no fluke. If anything, the first fight was more flukish than this one. The fact that it was a close fight and could have went either way. So Fury said he had 3. Yeah, Fury says he's got 3 more fights on his contract, and he's thinking hard about stepping away after those 3 fights. So I just hope Joshua is in that plan. I hope he's in that plan, because there's no reason for it not to be. And I very much believe it will be, because that fight over there would be huge. And it'd be big here, but it would be humongous over there, Fury versus Joshua. And by the way, I think Fury wins that fight going away. Sorry about that, man. I fell off. Hopefully y'all hear this all right, because I had to turn the mic off. I got this iPhone X, so had to charge it. Ran out of charge messing around with texting everybody tonight. But just to wrap this thing up, because I wanted to wrap this thing up proper. Didn't want to leave it off like that. And I know those mannequins look freaky in the background, so let me try to turn around this way. Give y'all a proper background. But look, man, just a classic heavyweight performance by Fury. This went up there with a lot of the classic heavyweight performances. And I know a lot of people talk bad about the heavyweight division right now, and it's not what it used to be, all this stuff. But these were the two best heavyweights in the world. And Fury was clearly the best, and Fury is clearly the best heavyweight in the world. And he is the king of boxing right now. Period. Point blank, period. He proved that tonight, proved head and shoulders that he was the better fighter. And also proved for the second time in his career that he can beat a great fighter at his own game. Did it against Klitschko earlier in his career, and then did it tonight, I believe 6 years later, against almost 6 years later, against Deontay Wilder by bullying the bully in the ring, by walking him down and just completely destroying him. This was complete destruction. This fight was never in doubt. And for a guy as dangerous as Wilder, that's just hard to believe. It's hard to believe that this fight was never in doubt, because you always doubt with that right hand. You always doubt that all he has to do is land one big right hand, but there never felt like there was danger in this fight, ever. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I never felt like Wilder was in this fight. I saw it in the early second round. Even when Wilder, I felt, was winning that round, his legs were just not there when Fury was walking him down. Fury fainted him to death. Wilder didn't know what to do. Wilder didn't know what to do. And that's a good point with the feint, but Wilder just had more trouble with the jab. Like, Wilder had no idea what to do with that jab tonight. And when Fury caught him with that first right hand, it was like a deer in the headlights. He just had no idea what he got himself into. That's what it looked like to me. He's like, what did I get myself into tonight? He had no idea what to do with the jab. Tried to get his jab going in that second round, but never got it going. And that's the thing with Wilder you always have to worry about, is he can box when he wants to, but just has no interest in doing it, and forgets that he has a jab. Forgets that he has to set up that right hand sometimes. And he had to set up that right hand tonight because Fury was just not falling for it. He was not going to get in range for Wilder to land that right hand. And you saw Wilder loading up on that right hand, and just was not able to land it, was actually going over the top with it multiple times and just falling all over himself. And classic performance by Fury tonight. You know, so once again, to recap this thing, man, don't give up. Let's not give up on Wilder as a top 2 or 3 heavyweight. He's still number 2 in my opinion, because to be the top 2, you had to be one of the fighters fighting for the heavyweight championship tonight. The heavyweight championship. And Anthony Joshua was not in that ring tonight. Anthony Joshua hasn't stepped up to the plate. And Deontay Wilder has. So let's show love to the fighters with heart, which Deontay Wilder has heart. He's shown that in the guys he's wanted to fight and the guys that he has fought. And he showed that in the ring tonight by being a walking zombie for 6 rounds and continuing to move forward and continuing to try to fight a way to win this fight. It just was not there, because he was in there with a superior boxer tonight. And not only was he in there with a superior boxer, he was in there with a guy who was not going to be denied and a guy who was going to walk him down and beat him at his own game. And Fury, the story of the night was the jab. Much better jabber, which sets up everything. And he was the better power puncher tonight, which is hard to believe. He was the rougher guy. He was the tougher guy. He was the bigger puncher. All of that. He was better in every facet of the game. Every facet of the game. And what I also say about Fury is he's one of those guys, and I brought it up, and it's ultimately why I ended up picking Fury to win this fight. Is there are certain guys that when the big moment comes, they show up. They show up. And that's why I wasn't worried about the Wallin fight. He wasn't interested in the Wallin fight. I knew he was going to bounce back and have his A game tonight. But ultimately what made me pick Fury is he's one of those guys, man. He steps up when the lights are on and when the moment is right. He's one of those guys like a Tom Brady, like a LeBron James, you know, like these great athletes that give their best when the moment's right. And that was Fury tonight. He was best when the moment was right. And back to a previous point I was making, before I wrap this thing up, and I've said that several times, but stream of thoughts coming through my head is one of them was it was just shocking to me to see all the experts. I mean, it seemed like 9 out of 10 were picking Wilder to win this fight. As it got closer, people were just jumping all over the Wilder train. And I thought it was more of a 50-50 fight. I thought it was going to be more 50% Wilder, 50% Fury, but it was all Wilder. It seemed like the boxing experts and boxers and people on YouTube, it just seemed like everybody was jumping on Wilder late and had me worried about my pick. It's like, what am I missing? Am I missing something? And I think a lot of people were worried about the 273 maybe. I don't know, but that ended up being the right move. It ended up being the right move. And props to Fury, props to Sugar Hill. And he needs to stay with Sugar Hill. He needs to stay with him. And he did good work with Ben Davison as well. But I think Sugar Hill, I think that's the sweet spot. I think this is the type of fight Fury needs to fight more of, right? More on his front foot, a little less on his back foot, mix it up a little more, and he did that tonight. He did that tonight. It was very, very reminiscent. I said at the beginning of the video, it's very reminiscent of Ward versus Kovalev too. Just bullying the bully, walking him down, not being fearful at all of that big right hand, of the big weapon, and beating him at his own game. Beautiful fight for Fury. Classic performance. Props to everybody out there who watched the video, watched this live. Hit that like button and hit that sub button as well. Podcast starting Monday. I'll drop another video tomorrow about this, and then the podcast is coming Monday. We'll have more to talk about for this fight because there's still a lot of stuff to talk about as far as this fight goes, how it played out. And Kenny Bayless was awful. Let me say that one more time. Kenny Bayless was awful tonight. No need to take a point. And I'm glad that this thing didn't go to decision and get close, and that ended up being something that we had to talk about. I just feel like he did an inconsistent job of when to break up the fighters and getting in the middle and breaking it up. I feel like he was trying to give Wilder a little too much time to recover certain times. I still feel like that second knockdown in that initial round, I think it was the third round, that second knockdown, I want to see the replay of that, man, because I think that was a knockdown. I'm interested to see the replay of that. But Kenny Bayless was bad tonight. He's hit and miss with me, man. Sometimes he's good. The point was, he said that the point was a punch in the clinch when he were breaking the clinch. But guys punching the clinch all the time. He warned them that he was going to take a point. He warned both fighters initially before that he was going to take a point. But for what for? Neither fighter was doing anything wrong. They were punching in the clinch. I felt like he was trying to interject himself into the fight, and there was no need to do that. These guys were working fine on the inside, and once you get tired of seeing them do that, get in between them and break them up and reset the fight. Instead, he's telling them to break up. He's not getting in the middle, so Tyson Fury pulls back and throws a right uppercut, and he gets mad at that and takes a point. For what? For what? Everybody was confused by that. So Kenny Bayless was terrible. And let me say this too. I got a lot of love for Lennox Lewis as a fighter. But Lennox Lewis is not a commentator. He's just not. Lennox Lewis is not good. George Foreman was not a good commentator either. I just don't think there's any need for Tyson Fury to be calling fights. I just don't think he adds anything to the equation other than he was a great heavyweight. So maybe you'd say he sees something. Maybe he sees things, but he doesn't. He just doesn't. I don't know what to say, man. He just doesn't add anything to the commentary. It's just Captain Obvious all the time. Like he doesn't really add anything to it other than he's Lennox Lewis. So I didn't like George Foreman either. As a commentator, and I'd be fine with not seeing Lennox Lewis anymore. I would have much rather see Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley ringside. I'd much rather see a Paulie Malignaggi ringside because I thought Paulie Malignaggi was excellent, is excellent as a commentator when Showtime does do fights. But that's my last comments, man. See more videos on this. We'll start it up again tomorrow. Podcast starting up Monday. Hit that sub button. Hit the alerts button. I'm out for the night. Peace. Tyson Fury, the heavyweight king. I'm out.